It's my pleasure to introduce, ready for this one? I looked her up. I used Google, modern technology. First speaker is going to be Erica Taylor. So what you don't know is Erica is from where? Read the program, Delaware State. So I'm checking you out here, Delaware State University. Question 2, what's the HBCU? Where's Delaware State? What is it? HBCU. Delaware State is? HBCU. When were they founded? The second Morrill Act. What was that year? 1890. When was Delaware State founded? 1891. So on behalf of AKA, welcome Delaware State to a new family of AKA. Yay, come on now. So with that being said, Erica is department chair. She has ties to, what's that, Auburn University and Georgia University. So welcome, Erica, please. You need this?
I have this one. I guess this is working. Okay, this is actually my first AKA meeting, and I submitted, I was kind of thinking I might get I submitted kind of thinking I'd get a poster. Surprise! And anyway, but I was actually really excited to come because this is our department joined in 2016, and at the time we were going through curriculum revision. And one of the things we did was take advantage of the consultation service and work to build our curriculum around the AKA core, which was hugely beneficial for us. It really helped us a lot with getting support from the administration about another curriculum change, addressing some faculty disagreement and issues within faculty, and what we think put together a fairly strong program. So I'm just gonna highlight here. So basically, I'm just gonna go over a little bit of the history of our program and kind of how we started and got to the point where we were making the revisions in 2016. The challenges we had leading up to the revision in terms of things that led to us wanting to make another revision at this point, feeling we needed to, and then challenges we incurred around working within our department, faculty, et cetera, using the consultation service, aligning our curriculum with the AKA core. Some of the highlights of our new curriculum that I think were strengthened by the core and that still gave us the flexibility to meet our university requirements and prepare students kind of specifically as we wanted to within the field, and then kind of what our next steps are and where we're going to go next with our program. So our department spun out of sports science, and actually our history is a little spotty in terms of I'm getting different pieces of information depending upon the sources and the people I talk to. But it started as a concentration called Fitness Promotions within Sports Sciences. It was just a very general program that had, exercise physiology, biomechanics, motor learning and control, and then the general education requirements and a lot of elective coursework. It then changed within the next couple of years to movement science, and the chair at the time's background was in biomechanics, and that kind of so it had a fairly heavy biomechanics focus, and that was one of the reasons that the movement science was chosen. However, it didn't really reflect kind of all of what we were doing, and it wasn't as recognizable out there that's what we were. As I became chair in 2015, every now and then we get students transferring, changing majors once they got to the university, or transferring after being somewhere else for a year or so. And when I said, well, why are you changing now? What's the transfer? Well, I didn't realize you guys had kinesiology or exercise science. I didn't know they didn't recognize movement science. It didn't stand out. So that name was one of our challenges that we had. We went to concentrations around 2008, 2009. We had a pre-health professional concentration, and we had, at the time it was called fitness strength certification, but it didn't directly lead to a certification. It just had, this is coursework that should set you up to take the certification exam. And I guess most of you probably know if you have that in the curriculum, most students aren't taking the exam. So we weren't having students take the exam. Here in 2011, we made a change. We still kept the concentrations, and they were fairly distinct at this point. When we changed in 2011, the curricula kind of lined up, the concentration kind of lined up a little bit more. So there was a little less overlap. I mean, there's a little more overlap and less distinction between the two and how we were preparing students differently in those programs. And one of the changes that we made was here we had elective coursework that was open elective, so students could make the program a little more specific to their personal and professional goals. Here we made the requirements fewer free electives, more movement science electives, which in theory was a good idea in that we had certain tracks where these are the clinical electives, these are the ones that are a little more focused on some of the neuroscience, biomechanics, and you take this group of electives, if you want to go this way, this group of electives for this. The problem was we didn't have enough faculty to cover them and offer them on a regular rotation. So basically it was more or less which elective am I not taking versus which elective am I taking. And with that, a lot of the electives were also upper class electives. So we would have students change into the program, and they didn't have the prerequisite coursework, so they'd already fulfilled the general education requirement. They couldn't take any courses. So we were delaying graduation. So one of the things that happened along this time was we were doing a lot of course substitutions. Well, we can substitute this course and we really weren't kind of delivering our program as prescribed, which affects our ability to actually evaluate how well our program is working when students aren't actually taking our program. So we recognized there was a need to make some changes. Probably within the first year or so of this program, we were without a chair within discipline for about 3 years. So our acting chair was associate provost, who actually is a historian. So, and we had junior faculty, so no one in the department was tenured at that point, except for one person who was actually getting ready to retire. So at that point, our acting chair wanted us to kind of hold off on making revisions, and we just kind of stuck with this model of doing a lot of course substitutions in the interim. So finally, in his last year as interim chair, he said, well, let's go ahead and we have to make some changes. We're really not maintaining the integrity of our program. So we changed the name of the fitness training certification to health and exercise science. And we changed the elective requirements to have more open electives. However, we still had a lot of overlap between our programs. We still had probably around, again, 70% or so of the coursework being the same. And really and when we looked at the elective students were typically taking the movement science courses that weren't required as electives, or the same science courses outside the program. So they were really taking the same program. So we actually looked to kind of say, okay, let's consolidate, let's change the name, and we have Kinesiology 2017. So I kind of highlight a few of the changes. So one change that pretty much we did not have a lot of disagreement about was the name of the program, changing it from movement science to kinesiology. Our faculty pretty much agreed that that was more recognizable, that would be better off for our students, marketing, et cetera. The overlapping concentrations, we still had some faculty who were holding on to this idea that they really were different. Even when you look at kind of what students were taking, the elective coursework, and the data that we had on that could show that they were. And then the fact that we had multiple curriculum revisions that didn't really seem to address the curriculum as a whole, but we kind of took this approach previously of, let's fix this problem and have a new curriculum. Let's fix this problem and have a new curriculum. And that impacted kind of how faculty in our department, as well as our upper administration, were looking at our changes that we're making. We had great numbers in terms of our students. Graduation data were probably around the same where they were at the university, but not where we wanted them. So we kind of had to say, if we're going to make a change, we really need to make sure that we're making a change. We're going to get that buy-in from our faculty within our department and the administration who have to approve our program. Again, the faculty disagreement. And some of that came from the fact that we had new faculty coming in who were looking at our program more objectively and through different lenses than those who had been through these changes and those who had worked closely on these revisions, who held them near and dear and didn't want to change just because this was my program. And if you change this and take this class away, you're taking my class away. No, it's not your class, it's the department's class that you happen to teach. So we had those kind of things going on that we had to work with and address. And then going back to this, because we did have a lot of substitutions and we weren't offering things as we intended, we didn't have good program assessment data, and some of the data that we were collecting weren't the strongest. So we kind of had these things kind of working against us. So when we started looking into AKA, we had one of the faculty members on our curriculum committee said, well, let's look at the core the AKA Corps, and we contacted Gil Reeve, who worked with us wonderfully to help work with this program. And we took a different approach this time. Instead of trying to fix the problems, we just said, what do we need? If we have to just do an overhaul, we're gonna do an overhaul. We're not gonna just try to patchwork and fix the problems. So the first thing is, we did was we sent our current curriculum and information to Gil, and he kind of confirmed the things that those of us who were saying we need to change wanted to change. And that helped get some more of our faculty on board. And those who still weren't on board totally, at least the administration now is saying, our dean was saying, you know what, if you need to make these changes, I know it's been recent, let's do it. And we got that support from the administration, which was helpful in us moving forward. And then in reviewing our faculty expertise, there were a few classes that we were saying, we don't need to offer sport and fitness nutrition when we have a nutrition department that is offering a sport nutrition class. They're the content experts. This is taking away a class that somebody in our small faculty could be teaching that's in line with expertise, offer an extra section of another course, et cetera. Same thing with anatomy and physiology. So this kind of, again, gave us that support when we had this written document from someone who has the background in dealing with curriculum, strategic planning, et cetera, kind of supporting the decisions we wanted to make at the upper level. So we were able to say, we're gonna have our faculty, we're gonna have our students take A&P in biology, where they have a better lab infrastructure that frees up our instructors. We're not gonna offer nutrition anymore. Again, that frees up more of our instructors to help kind of expand the offerings that we had, get some of our larger classes down to smaller sizes, et cetera. And then provided recommendation on what we do need and what we needed to change and how we can align our coursework with the AKA Corps. So then we sent our proposed curriculum and got feedback on developing the courses we wanted to have, as well as the student learning outcome and our program goals. And all those, again, I said, were very helpful in terms of us getting the support we needed. One of the things that we did that, again, further gave that support from the upper administration, as we took the AKA Corps and showed how they actually align with our university and our university core values. So the red actually is what the AKA core statement is, and then we kind of tied that into different aspects of our university core values to show that, using this core does not distract or take away from what the university represents and wants us to do and how the university wants us to present it. And that was a really strong feature, being able to do that with the core in terms of getting that support from the Faculty Senate, from the upper administration above our dean's office as well. So we did that with all 4 of the AKA core points that were that are presented there. So the biggest benefits were that, and I think that was kind of stated in the earlier presentations, the thing that we really liked about the AKA core is that it was not a prescribed program, you have to do X, Y, and Z, but it really gave us a strong framework and structure upon which we could build our program. Because we wanted to get away from this model of just trying to fix different aspects that were broken and really just build a program from the start and then say, okay, now how do we branch off? Do we need to add a concentration? Do we need to add a minor or something like that? But let's get this a strong foundation of a program first. And the AKA core really helped us do that. The fact that we were able to align it or relate it to the DSG core values, which support our strategic plan, University Strategic Plan Pride 2020, again, was hugely beneficial in terms of us getting approval. And it helped us to kind of go back and really look at the courses we were offering, getting the feedback from the consultation to align and build our programs around our expertise within our department, and eliminate courses that were not in our expertise to teach, and add additional courses or modify courses that were more focused and more aligned with the individuals in our department. And we have a pretty large DSU university core in terms of, we still have a pretty liberal art kind of general education core that we have to have. And looking at that, we were still able to offer courses we needed to meet our general education core, which include multiple English composition classes, literature, history, arts and humanities electives, the university seminar. So all these courses, probably around 10 or so courses that have to focus on our university general education requirement. So we were still able to meet all of our general education coursework requirements are across the curriculum within the major requirements, so the writing requirements within the major, the critical thinking, all those things that we have to have within our individual coursework that is related to our discipline, and still so that we're meeting these things that any program in kinesiology should have with the AKA core as well. So we were kind of meeting the best of both worlds, being able to use this framework to still address our university requirements and university responsibilities in terms of education. As a whole, we still had some faculty who were not 100% yes, way to go, but at this point in terms of the feedback we got from reviewing our previous curriculum, recommendations for our new curriculum, the development of our new curriculum, it was hard to kind of disagree even if you didn't, I mean, it was hard to not buy in even if you didn't agree with every piece of it. So that really helped us vote within our department as well as at the higher up. We had pretty seamless process through the upper administration, and we were still able to, some of our faculty were concerned that we were basing this in the AKA, we have all these things with ACSM and NSCA, and we really say, well, know the discipline. You look at these, look at the, AKA is not opposed to these other, they're all support. We all work together and we all kind of benefit and support. So we still were able to align specific course objectives with ACSM and NSCA, KSAs, and add the courses back in that are more related to the certification and some of the common certifications that students might want to get upon graduation. And a lot of our courses had more course objectives than we could meet. So we kind of, again, were able to expand the coursework and reduce the number of course objectives in a lot of classes to really focus in on the required content. Some of these I think were the biggest improvements. One was we modified our introduction course. We had previously a 1-credit course that was frequently offered online, and we changed that to a 3-credit course that is offered in the classroom. And the goal of that really is to help students see, one, what can we do with this degree? What are your career options from early on? How do the individual courses kind of fit together? As students always say, well, I want to do this, why do I have to take this course? Or why does this course have to be prerequisite for that course? So to really kind of let them see how and why we put the program together as we did. And also to see how the individual courses apply to their specific career choices. So taking this course early on, hopefully we'll get students really understanding why they're taking the courses as they are and how they relate to what they want to do. So as they go through the program, they can think about it, look at it in a more applied, specific way to their particular professional interest. We were able to increase the research infrastructure and capacity based on the changes in our senior capstone offering. And because we were able to, even though we still have a small faculty for the number of students that we have, we were able to expand the research classes we offer, and I worked with the dean to have my undergraduate research coordinator actually receive a 1-course release time to kind of coordinate that program and get more students in. And we have a lot of students taking a course that was previously an elective, now that's required for some, depending upon their track for senior capstone. We have a lot of students now wanting to get involved in research, and even students that, even if I can't get credit, can I just go work in the lab now and get some of that experience? Increased opportunities for experiential learning. We were able to add labs to 2 more courses, and we are also able to, our new provost is very much into service learning and outreach, to add some service components, and within our program, where students can actually get more experience in terms of service learning outside the classroom, in the community, as well as a laboratory hands-on experience within the coursework. And we improved our senior capstone by kind of breaking down the intensive writing component with the hands-on either internship or research component portions of that. So those were kind of, I think, 4 of the big highlights that I think really did strengthen our program, and able to streamline the way we offer our courses, basing our program on the AKA core were helpful. So the last little piece I have here, we had addressing student frustration is always an issue when you have a curriculum change, and we had 2 different things. There's the positive frustration, students wanted to take the new program. And when they liked the name, they liked the course offerings, they thought it would really help them get to the next step. However, we had a more stringent transition plan from program from the old to the new, kind of protect the integrity of the program and to minimize the substitution so we can have better program data. So some of those students weren't happy that they weren't graduating with the new program, but the general frustration there was, I wish you had done this sooner. And then the students just not understanding how courses change, et cetera, which were easy to address. We did, I think, have a better transition plan to protect the integrity of the new program. Marketing efforts have been a little bit spotty as we're still sending stuff over. We're not movement science anymore, we're kinesiology in terms of getting the word out there, so that's still kind of working with that. And then probably our big final next step is contacting the AKA again and working with Gil or whoever he recommends for us to work with to really develop a strong assessment and strategic plan to go along with our new curriculum. So basically, this presentation is more of a thank you for the work that you helped with us in terms of really improving and advancing our program. So,
thank you. Great job. Thank you. Please welcome Nolan Ryan.
All right, thank you.
You good? Okay,
I'm
buddy.
good. I got sound.
You got sound.
Okay, so I work with a lot of underclassmen, and I wanted to address the perceptions of group work. So we're already at a better start. Usually I just say group work, and I hear a chorus of hiss and boos. So this is already going very well. And then I wanted to add a peer review to this group work. So after the chorus of boos, I say, okay, let's talk about this. I understand, but I let them. And then what do you think? You teach these courses too. What do you hear from students? Are they willing? No. No. Yes? You have yes. I have mixed. And I hear they're concerned that somebody's just going to take a free ride. All right? They're concerned that there's forced into groups. The effort doesn't always match the grade. Okay? So you have a varying degree of effort. And typically, they're used to everybody in the group getting the same grade. I could agree that would be problematic. I always also pitch, if you all work together, this could potentially be less work if you communicate with each other. Also, you need to get used to working with people. That's a big part of our field. And it's pretty funny. They say, well, when I get to be a professional, everybody's going to work hard because they get paid. Where does that happen? Then I usually ask if there's anything else, and the conversation stalls. So then I turn it back to me. Okay, you know what? This is a difficult process, and I want you to understand that I'm going to have some difficulty with this too. All right, so honestly, I want you to work together to solve your own problems. I'm not going to be part of your group. Let's keep the conversations on topic. Let's try to eliminate some of the gossip that I've been hearing. Also, I recognize it's hard to coordinate schedules. Don't you love it when your students tell you that they're busy? Yes, I can relate. Okay, and then the first time I tried to do peer review, it ended up into a bullying behavior where it was too straightforward and students were trying to figure out who gave them a poor grade. Then I admit to it, because then I hear well, you're doing this because you'll have less work. Well, okay, that's yes, I will have less to grade if you all work together and come up with a final project. Also, I want to shift the responsibility from the teacher. I want to put the responsibility of the work on the students. And then this addresses key components that we've heard all weekend, right? And I want my students to get an opposing point of view. If you don't work with people, if you don't listen to people, if you don't have conversations, how do you gain perspective? Okay? And I remind them of our guidelines. We want to demonstrate an appreciation for cultural diversity and make ethical decisions. How do you get diversity and ethical decisions if you don't work in a group? If you don't have somebody else there with you that may or may not agree with you? This is a skill that we need to develop, okay? And then I want them to evaluate their own work, first of all, and it makes for a real strong product if you have 4 or 5 individuals looking at the final product before it's submitted. Okay, so the aim of this study, I went through IRB and got approval to go ahead and collect some data. And I wanted to give fair grades, individual grades. However, I didn't want to guess, because I'm not part of this group, right? And then I wanted to maintain an incentive for a well-finished product, okay? So I wanted the group to benefit for the outcome. I also had this notion that I wanted to reward them for getting along in the group and producing an individual effort. So it was really twofold. I want a good product, and I want effort from every member. This is difficult to measure, okay? And what I want to get at is I want to see if I can capture a different score that's fair and differentiate effort within a group. And then I wondered, is this a precise way of going forward? I'm going to monitor it as we progress and see if I get consistent results. And then I asked them a pre and post about the peer evaluation and group work, okay? So how do we create a systematic measurement, okay? So how are they graded? Like I said, I care about the whole product. So they have a rubric, and I grade that. Then 50% of the points accrued are automatically given to each member of the group. The next 50 come from a peer assessment, where they evaluate within their own group individuals' effort as it compared to the rest of the group. Okay, so we have to have grading categories. The other thing about addressing diversity, we hope they acknowledge a diversity in the skills that they bring to a group. So they're going to think about each individual member of the group in these 6 criterion: motivation and time, adaptability, creativity, communication, general skills, and technical. And I try to impress that you don't need everybody to be really good at one thing. The best groups find a way to allocate people with skills to a particular category. And then at the end, they're giving another assignment to follow up. And I want them to grade their peers. Did they do something that was better? Were they the best communicator in the group? That would get them a 3. Were they a little bit better than the rest of the group? 2. Okay? Did they struggle in this respect? And it's okay to not be a technical person. You could still be productive in a group. Were they no help at all? And did they hinder the group? Okay? In any one category. All right, so I changed, I had a group in mind that was really great, but I changed their names, and we're going to meet this hypothetical group. We're going to meet Minnie, okay? The sweetheart that just does it all, right? Daisy, and this wasn't, I actually thought of one of my students with this. She is on point and a diva. Both things are true. Okay, so she is going to get it done, and she's going to knock over everybody in her way. Okay, we can work on that. There's Goofy. You know, every group has this guy that, nice guy, doesn't really know what's going on, okay? Professor Von Drake, the brilliant person who is all over the place, okay? I can relate. And then every group has him, the villain, Pete, okay, Pete. All right, so let's think about how Minnie reflected upon her group. And she had a similar narrative as I did, and for each group, she thought of each particular team member and the skill they were bringing, okay? And then Minnie has an aggregate total for each one of her team members. And you can see she thought Daisy was okay. The best possible score is an 18, and it's unlikely anybody's gonna get an 18. Goofy, she liked him, but really didn't do as much as others. She thought the professor was great and did not get along with Pete, okay? Well, let's see, the team also evaluates Minnie's effort, okay? Daisy thought she was good. Goofy, well, he didn't know what was going on, but he knew he wasn't getting anything done without Minnie. She got a 16. The professor raved about Minnie. He really thought she pulled it together. And Pete didn't like her at all, okay? And what's interesting about this is, even though Minnie did all these things well, she really left out a team member, okay? So she should be responsible for not working with somebody she disagrees with. And that message was better received when we put points on it. Our students are really concerned about how do I get the best grade possible. And if there's not a point value associated, I can't expect them to have the same values I do, okay? So when we added all the scores up and averaged them, Minnie ended up with a 12, Daisy an 8, and here's interesting, not everybody felt the same way about Goofy. His score was brought up by the group. However, Pete, everybody generally agreed he underperformed, to say the least, okay? So our next step, so we figure out the whole I'll go back here. So if we average the group, the average effort across all these players is a 9, okay? Now remember I said this group, they turned in the perfect project, absolutely perfect. All the points according to the rubric that was provided. So like I said in the opening, they all get half the points right off the table. You earned them for your final product. That was so well done. Minnie, again, got a 12, when the rest of the group averaged a 9. So Minnie actually went above and beyond, okay? So in this model, when we figure that out, Minnie gets credit for going above and beyond. She actually ended up with a 68 out of 50, okay? Now what about Pete? Well, Pete struggled, okay? And we think about the rest of the group, he barely did over about 20% of the work as opposed to everybody else. So should he enjoy the 50? I don't think so, okay? And with this model, he doesn't. So really, even though it's the same product, we've weighted the individual efforts. And it takes me out of it, okay? All I have to say is, this is how 4 other people evaluated your work, okay? And then, okay, so let's flash back to what actually happened in this course. They were in groups based on, what happened was I asked them to write about a topic. And then the class voted on the best ideas. And then they had to apply to be part of the team. So they could say, I have technical skills, I see you don't have a technician on your team, let me be that. Okay, so they weren't punished for what they can't do, they were encouraged to go over what they can. Okay, and here, this is with the individual weighted factor, you could see a nice spread of scores. However, I also want to say, would that be different if I just gave them the straight up score that the group earned for the final project? And we start to see that it marginalizes people, okay? Especially here. So we see a tight standard deviation, which we kind of expect. There was fewer scores possible, right? If everybody in this group gets the same score. It really keeps the people that are working, it keeps them working, right? And just look at the average score. Without the individual weighted factor, this assignment didn't particularly go well. And I'll think about how to retweak it and make it a better outcome. But when we really gave people credit for their effort, you can see the jump in the average, okay? And here's assignment number 3. The other thing too is if we look at the standard deviation, across the 3 assignments it's very similar, okay? So perhaps, we definitely need more data here, but perhaps that's an indicator of precise. I don't know about accurate, but precise perhaps, okay? So we did successfully see a range of scores within group and across the classroom, okay? A preliminary data says the students didn't change their beliefs about group work. So I could think about how to improve the attitude, but anecdotally, the product was superb. I've taught this a couple of semesters now. So it was really, really nice to find something in the literature, and this isn't mine. I found it in the literature, and I really appreciated how you can reward individuals for working in a group. So like I said, I'd like to have more classes to have a bigger sample size, and I would also like to edit the survey because the survey asked, do you think group work's a good idea, and really general questions about group work. I would like to ask specific questions if, did they like this model better? And let them have a voice in it. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Chanel, hustlers, hasteless. Got it right? Well, you know what? A Hall of Fame nominee, athletic training. Give a round of applause. I got you, did that? Okay.
Thank you. It's good to be here. This is also my first AKA meeting, and it's been, thank you, super fun to see that we're not alone, I think is maybe part of it. We're dealing with the same things you are, even though it's on a slightly different scale. So I wanted to share today about something that we do to address those same things that you're all thinking about, and that's actually in our scheduling model that we have on our campus. University of Montana Western is one of, it's the only public institution to use this model of scheduling. There are at least 2 other private schools that use it. One of them is Colorado College here in Colorado. But we have an immersive scheduling model we call Experience One. And so this is just a little bit of some of our transition. We've been in X1, is what we call it, because experience is a very long word. We've been in X1 for just a little over a decade now, and it actually aligned fairly well with transitions that we made in our department, which helped us then to move to aligning with the AKA core elements as well, as we created a new degree. We are traditionally, we are a liberal arts institution, but we are created as a state normal college. We're a land-grant university. We are a regional campus within our system, and so access in a state the size of Montana was always a primary focus. There are 4 access-based institutions that are 4-year liberal arts institutions in our state, plus the flagships, which are still small compared to what many of you are at. Our 2 largest campuses, one's about 11,000 students, the other's around 17,000 right now. Montana Western has seen some growth, which is great in a system that is cash-strapped and struggling. The state of Montana only has about 1 million people. And so to have this many 4-year institutions is challenging. And so part of what Western needed to do was differentiate itself. And so moving to the X1 model helped us to do that. And we've seen really great results from that. So established in 1893, so we are the same year as the University of Montana, so we were the first 2 institutions in the state. Been around a long time. We have a beautiful campus, but all my pictures were snow covered, and it doesn't feel right to share that with you today. Because everybody else had sunny pictures, and we have sun, but it's winter there right now. So the X1 model is actually a faculty-driven change that we had. I've been at Montana Western starting as a student since 1996. And we were fairly small at that time. We had survived some changes and challenges in the late 80s that almost led to the closing of our campus. And so it's a very strongly supported local institution because it does provide access to our rural population. The community of Dillon, our town, is about 5,000 people. So we're very small. Beaverhead County, which is the largest county in the lower 48 states, has only about 8,000 people. There are, for instance, 2 high schools in our county. One graduates about 4 students a year, and the other one, I think they're running around 80 this year. They're kind of down. So we're a small place. And so, again, in this large state, very geographically dispersed, there's some challenges to having this large institutional system that we have. In addition to our 4-year institutions, we have a number of colleges of technology. We have a number of community colleges, and we also have a tribal college system within our state, which has 5 campuses on each of the many of our reservations have those. So there are lots of opportunities for students to get higher education in our state, so we had to do something to be a little bit different. And X1 was our answer for that. The science faculty is who initially started this process of talking about we need to change our model or we're not going to make it. And so X1 began with a pilot program. We started with incoming freshmen. And we took them and put them into this immersive scheduling first. We then expanded that to a 2nd year, and then for the 3rd year, we changed the entire university scheduling model. We hired a chancellor, who's our chief executive officer, from Colorado College to help us with that transition. It looks different at Colorado College with their financial opportunities than it does for us, but it did help us to make that change. And now that we're more than a decade in, we've seen the growth and we've seen the change and the opportunities that brings. In about 2003, we were at only about 975 students. So not very large, not the capacity that we needed to continue to fund our institution. After a decade of that, we have topped 1,400 students. So we've seen great growth in that. And we have seen expansion of degrees, and our degree is one of those. The mission of the institution is there, and it is that we have a culture of concentrated experiential education. And this X1 is part of that. But it's not much different than what you do. We've talked a lot about active learning. We've talked about experiences and all of that. We just get to do it in a slightly different way. So our department became a standalone department just in 2015. Originally, we only had the physical education, teacher education degree, and we were part of the School of Education. We decided we needed to leave them to be able to do what we needed to do. Not just to help strengthen our PE education, but to create opportunities for students who were interested in the field of physical activity, but didn't want to be traditional K-12 educators. So we were able to create our own department. It's new, and now our third year. I've been the chair of that department, and I keep trying to talk somebody else into doing that. I'm afraid it's a life sentence. But we will be moving to a division structure next year, and it seems odd on the surface, but we'll be aligned with the Department of Business and our natural horsemanship department. And we're really looking forward to that because both of those programs are pretty innovative and really well grounded in assessment, and we are looking forward to joining that. We have about 78 majors in what we call our Health and Human Performance degree, and that is our kinesiology degree. The terminology changes come slowly to Montana. It's because horses take a while to get there. No, we ride our snowmobiles instead. But our HHP major is aligned with the core curriculum. That's how we did our last curriculum revision, and we have what we feel is a very strong core of learning experiences. We also have 60 students who are still in our physical education and health content, and that makes us by far the largest content area outside of our elementary program. So despite the fact that education is always trying to limit our say into that curriculum, we're very powerful still because of our numbers. And then we have option areas that are cooperations with business administration. We have a health and fitness management option. And we have courses that are in our biology's pre-medicine, pre-veterinary program. So we try to reach out and touch everyone. And then we have 2 courses which are offered as general education options for students. So that sounds like a lot, and it is because there's only 4 of us. We have 3 tenure-track faculty members, and we have 1 full-time instructor. We're all quite busy. We've asked for another tenure line, and we're crossing our fingers that maybe we can get that. But I put our mission up there with most of it hard to read on purpose because it's really long and horrible, and I want to change it. But the pieces that I left there I think are in alignment with everything that we've dealt with this week. We're doing the same thing you are. We're trying to create these students who can apply their knowledge, who can think critically about that knowledge and how they can use that to affect change and to help people. So I'm going to clean it up. A few years, we'll get there, I think. So X1, what's it really look like? For us, what it looks like is an 18-day course. So our semester, we are on semesters, and they are still traditional. We start the Monday before Labor Day. The reason for that is we are the home of Montana's biggest weekend, and we would not want our kids to miss out on the opportunity to go to the fair and make bad choices. We call it socializing, right? They're getting socialized. But we get them there before Labor Day, and then our semester is broken into 4 blocks. So our blocks contain, almost always, a 4-credit course. So for instance, this fall semester, my first block, we call it block 1, was our fundamentals of HHP, our foundations in HHP course. 4 credits. We cap our courses at 25 or fewer students. Again, we're small, so we can do that. So I had 25 in that course, a mix of freshmen and sophomores, and they were all either in one of those areas, either option students or within our 2 degrees, within our department. They only take this 1 class at a time, and I only teach the 1 class. And so we have 2 ways of looking at this. Number 1, it's our job during this time, because that's all your obligations are, is to this class. And we also think about it a little bit like a family, because once you've had a block together with people for 2 or 3 times, you act a little bit like a family. Okay, there's a little tough love, there's some disagreements. We have snacks a lot because we sit together in class for 4 hours. So we sit around the dinner table and talk things out sometimes. So we have this very immersive, cooperative model between our faculty and our students. Within those 18 days, we get to own the block. We get to do what we want with it. And sometimes that looks more like a traditional, we spend 3 hours a day in class because to get our contact hours, it's about 3 hours a day. But often, and especially as we get into more of our practical courses, it looks different. And so we integrate those labs with our course, but we can do it across the course of a day. The challenge that we do sometimes run into, we have a very strong athletic program. A lot of our majors are collegiate athletes, and so there is that whole conflict between their coach wanting them in the afternoon for practice and what we want them to do. So for instance, a traditional after-school program is difficult for many of our majors to get involved in. So we create other opportunities that are within those other time frames. So our class, for instance, our exercise physiology class, they always meet from 8:15 to 2 o'clock. That's going to be their schedule. And within that, they're doing different experiences. And I'm going to give you some examples of those partnerships and opportunities that our students get to do because of our freedom within the block. Because we know at 9:45, they don't have to run off to go to composition class. They're ours. And they get used to us kind of saying, well, you have to be ours. And that's how this works. So they take this one class at a time. It's combined. At the end of this, we get to have a break from each other. And I usually tell them, it's not you, it's me. We need some time apart. And we move on to the next class after a 4-day block break. So we always have 4 days because there's always cleanup to do, and then there's always prep for the next one. In theory, we all have a professional development block during the semester as well, where we're not teaching in the classroom. We have 3.5 weeks of our time to do our service, to do our scholarship. The challenge with our growing enrollment is that we're many of us teaching overload right now. And so it is harder to take that block and really not be teaching. But we do have those breaks to try to reset and get ready to move forward. We do have some courses that are offered as stringers. For instance, our practicum style courses, our internships, and some of our other experiences that they take over a semester as an add-on. And so we have 1 or 2 credit classes. Our activity classes are the same. So for instance, in our program, they are required a number of credits that are in the practice of physical activity. So I'm teaching right now a 2-day-a-week indoor cycling class. And that'll go all semester. And so I have a group of students who will be doing that as a 1 credit, basically an add-on class. So the opportunities here, we get their full attention. Sometimes we have to pry it from them. But we can get their full attention. We do have our small class sizes. Some of our courses are capped at 20. A few of them are lower. But small class size, lots of interaction between each other and with our faculty. This increased enrollment and tuition generation that we had led to some really great opportunities for us. And one of those was actually finally getting our own laboratory. And we laugh about that a little bit because, again, our campus is quite old. We've had 1 new building built on campus in my time there, and then we actually had a building that got picked up and dropped on campus. So we've had 2 new buildings in the last 22 years. But we don't have a lot of opportunity within our system to raise funds for new buildings. So we were given a building that was sitting vacant for a little while on campus, and that was our ability to create our Health and Human Performance Laboratory. And this gives us even more opportunity to get those students the hands-on experiences, but also to bring people to our campus. We are housed in the same building as athletics. We are super fortunate. We have huge gymnasiums. We have a ton of space. The problem is that they were always busy and not super accessible sometimes to our community members. So our new facility allows us a better opportunity for that. So some of the ways that we put this into work, and again, not just dependent upon our block scheduling, but this does allow us to do some different things with that. We've done student athlete assessment this year, and that's actually one of our student researchers working on his senior thesis is doing some of that testing. But we've created these partnerships off campus as well. It's similar to we talked about at Penn State, that wellness assessment piece. We're getting to do that with lots of members of our community. So our rural fire department is a volunteer fire department. We've been doing their assessments now. They've been coming in regularly for that. And then our students are able to compose that information in a way that then we interpret it back to them. So yeah, we give them, okay, here's your estimated VO2 max based on the YMCA bike test, but to translate that back into that language that communicates something that's meaningful to them so that they can engage in practices to improve their health and fitness. Once the fire department got on board, then the other organizations got a little jealous. So that was a great opportunity for us to reach out to a few more groups. The fire department's great because they're super visible. They like to come in their big trucks and park them right in the middle of everything because no one's going to ticket them. But that was great because it actually did increase our visibility about this program quite a bit. Again, we do have physical educators. In Montana, health enhancement is a combined health and physical education endorsement. And so our field experience opportunities for our education students are greatly expanded in the block because we can make them go away for a week and they don't miss the rest of their obligations. So our field experiences, because we're in a small community, are somewhat limited. We have one physical educator at the elementary school, one physical educator at the middle school, and 2 at the high school. So we can't get 25 students into those classrooms, but we can say, all right, during this week, we're gonna help you find another placement. And they can go and be immersed in those public schools for a week at a time, and then come back to us with those varied experiences. That's actually a picture from our Jump Rope for Heart activities that we do with our local schools. So in addition to that in-classroom time in the schools, they're doing projects to support the single physical educators that are out there. We've been doing senior fitness assessments, which is super fun. You know, we do have an aging population in our community as well, and so we're working with the YMCA, we're working with assisted living facilities, and we're able to go into those during the times that the seniors are actually working out, which is 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. Instead of trying to fit that into around classes, that is class that day. We're able to go and spend the day doing those things, which has been great because getting the word out about what we do and how we can contribute to our community is certainly a big value of ours. We've worked with our 2 law enforcement agencies. We have a city police department, and then we have our county sheriff department, and we've been doing testing with them, and that's even led to us doing their assessments of their incoming officers. So the fitness testing that they do for new recruits to test out, are they capable of performing the skills of the job? So not just that ongoing fitness assessment, but more specific testing opportunities, which is great for our students to, again, see different ways that they can use their knowledge to be supportive. And then community outreach. That's actually, it's kind of a lie because the gentleman in that picture is our former exercise physiology professor. But when we got the new lab, suddenly he showed back up in our life, which has been great. He's enjoying retirement very much, but he also really loves having the lab. So he likes to come by and have our students demonstrate the new techniques, show them what they're working with in terms of our metabolic equipment and our testing. So it's really re-engaged many members of our community, and we've hosted some open houses. People are coming to the facility to see what we do and to get to interact with our students, which has been very valuable for all of them. And then research. This is something that as a small institution that isn't research focused, funding can be a real challenge. And so the time can also be a real challenge. We are really focused on our teaching, and that takes away a little bit from what we can do with our research. But our students, now that we have a new facility, now that we have new equipment, are more excited, and they're more self-motivated, and they are more willing to do the work to get involved in that research. And so we've, in just the last year and a half that we've been working in the new space, had quite a few students who are presenting beyond campus. We do have an undergraduate research symposium every year on campus, which is great, but we have students now who are presenting at the regional ACSM and other organizations, and they're really able to take that and demonstrate what they've learned. So those are a few of our projects that we're doing. Our exercise physiologist currently is working with our geology professor, which feels like a funny fit, but our geology professor also teaches climbing to the Sherpa who summit Everest with climbers. And so 2 of our faculty, our chemistry professor and our geology professor, take their professional development block each winter, and they spend that at Everest. And so getting an opportunity to link into some of that high altitude exercise physiology stuff was just too tempting for her. So we're looking right now at that, and she's planning to spend her professional development block with them next year at Everest. And so being able to look at all these different problems in a unique way really was enabled by our scheduling model. And so just wrapping up, a few of our benefits that we see in this model would be that immediate application opportunity. You know, we're looking at flipping some more things so there's even more time in class. The challenge of having 3 hours is that some faculty still have old methods and want to talk for 3 hours. For instance, my anatomy professor I had back when I was in school is still teaching at our campus. And I finally asked a student the other day, I said, is he still using overheads? And they're like, yes. I said, I knew it, except he's progressed a little because he has the little projection one now, not just the old school fan running. But to lecture for 3 hours in a class, for some faculty is like so tempting. For me, it's not, and for our students, it's not. So we definitely have to get involved in the active learning. And so that's been a real focus for us, taking those short chunks of information, maybe we do a 15-minute discussion or a lecture, and then you have to put it into practice right now, which is great because we don't have to wait. If it's Friday, we don't have to wait till Monday to come back and apply it. We can do it immediately because we have that freedom in the block. We have to be really evident with our scaffolding though, and this is something that we kind of didn't anticipate in this. Because we are so immersive and so intense in those 18 days, it's what they do, it's all they think about, they also tend to put it away right away when they get done. We have that 4-day block, and you'd think they'd been gone all summer when they come back. It's like they pack it up, they put it away, they go do whatever they do for their 4 days, and then I ask them a question the next Monday, and they have zero idea what I'm talking about. So we have to be very intentional in showing them how that knowledge transfers, helping them to recall it and see that this is building to something more. Otherwise, they tend to just compartmentalize. It has allowed us these collaborations. This semester, our statistics students actually don't have statistics until block 8. And their faculty member was telling me, well, the problem is that I need them to collect all this data. And what he didn't realize is when he told them all that, all these years, they just go, oh yeah, I'm gonna make it up. So they, in that immersive schedule, they don't have time to go out and collect data. And they didn't have guidance on that. He was just throwing them out there. So this year we've been very intentional about getting them involved in all the testing that we do alongside the students who are currently in the classes. So they get to be student mentors to some degree because they're coming back in, they've had that class already, but they're able to collect their own data and they're able to use that. And what we're seeing with that is it's much more meaningful to them and helps them make better connections. We also have that collaboration with our environmental sciences department, our physical sciences, as we're working on projects together. And we're really excited about creating more of those connections. The new divisional structure we think will also help with that. You know, NH, our natural horsemanship, it's a very unique program, but it opens the doors for a lot of opportunities for our students as well. So we're excited about those things. And then it's allowing us to develop more structured internship opportunities. Previously, we were really sending students out and saying good luck, and then getting a little bit of feedback from them at the end, and not able to really see how they're applying and see how they're using that information. With the new lab and with some intentional changes we've made, we're able to give them a little bit better guidance. And so they're doing fitness testing and they're applying that throughout the course of their coursework and their internship. So we've made some progress there. And again, that's probably certainly not unique to the block scheduling, but it's something that we're finally getting to advance. So that's just a little bit about us and what we do. Again, I don't think it's anything totally earth-shattering because it's using the same good pedagogy that you all are using. But this is our little niche and our little way of kind of attracting maybe some different students who are a little intimidated by working through so many classes at a time. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dale.